All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started now. Thank you all so much for coming tonight to hear from our first year panelists. My name is Cara Santa Maria. I am an intern with the school counseling department here at Newton North High School, and I'm a graduate at Boston College. I'm really happy to be here tonight to help co-run this webinar. I'll take a moment now to introduce the other lovely people who are putting this program on tonight. Let's start out with Mike.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Cabin, intern at Newton North as well, a graduate student at Cambridge College. Thank you all so much for being here.
Natalia.
Okay. Hi, guys. My name is Natalia Ruiz. I am a graduate student. I'm doing my internship at Newton North. Thank you so much for being here.
And Michelle.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Kennedy, one of the many school counselors at Newton North. I hope you find this evening informative, and thank you for joining us.
Awesome. So we are really excited to have these wonderful alum here to talk about their first year post-grad, answer some questions, and give some great advice to the seniors and juniors of Newton North. So if everyone could take just 2 minutes to introduce themselves and give a brief update of what you've been up to this past year. Let's start with Emmy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emmy. I've been, this year I started UMass Amherst Honors College. It was online the whole year because going onto the actual campus and the dorms was too expensive for me. I started an internship at a translation company in Brighton, and I've been working at Starbucks as well this whole year. So it's been a very self-focused year for me. Also just doing my major stuff, learning languages, very fun.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
Hi, so I'm Mackenzie. I attend the University of Maine at the Orono location. I am a student at the Maine Business School with a double major in marketing and management and a double minor in graphic design and new media studies. I was able to be on campus. We had some in-person classes and some hybrid and remote, but one of my highlights is I was able to attend dance club, and we did a big performance at the end. So COVID stopped some things, but it didn't stop everything. So very thankful for that.
Awesome. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I attend the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm a nursing major, so that's part of the School of Nursing. And I was on campus for both semesters, but my classes were, I'd say 95% online. And I was lucky to be there for both semesters. And I also, one thing that I did that was outside of the classroom was I participated in Panhellenic recruitment, and I'm a sister of Theta Phi Alpha.
Thank you. Henry?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Henry. I am attending the University of California at Berkeley this year. I'm actually still out in California right now. I have my last final exam for the semester today, which I'll take right after this. I've been out here in California on campus. Unfortunately, all the classes have been remote, but in the past month or so, the university has been opening up a lot of university kind of spaces for students, and so I've been able to get on campus into the libraries, and I've really been able to start seeing people in person the past couple of weeks, which has been really nice. I'm studying econ and public health with a minor in public policy, and I've been involved in a lot of different campus spaces. I have a job working on campus as an assistant in the statistics department, and I'm involved in a lot of extracurriculars as well.
Awesome. Josh?
Hey guys, I'm Josh. I attend the University of Pittsburgh. I got into the Honors College there, and I recently just declared as a chemical engineer. And as far as my year has gone, it's been a little crazy. Fall first semester was a lot of locked in your dorm. And then second semester, the university started to actually open up, and we got to actually see each other. Most of my semester was spent with my suite mates. There's 6 of us, and we essentially became a family of 6. We quarantined together, we did everything together. And so I'm really happy and that I met all of them, and that it turned out, and that I didn't hate them off of random chance. And that's really all that I've done.
Awesome. Sadie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sadie. I attend Hobart and William Smith Colleges in Geneva, New York.
I am planning on majoring in sociology and minoring in biology and health professions. On campus, I am a tour guide as well as I'm a student trainer within our sports medicine department, and I work with our men's Division I lacrosse team, which is pretty fun. Um, I also do a few different clubs on campus as well. I was really grateful to go to a small school and have been on campus. Just got back this weekend, so I was on campus for both semesters and actually did have most of my classes in person.
Thank you. And last but not least, Sophia.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Sophia. I'm a freshman at Harvard. I'm currently finishing out the semester at home, but I was lucky enough to be on campus last semester in the fall. So at Harvard, we don't have to decide concentrations until sophomore fall. So I haven't figured it out quite yet, but I'm thinking of majoring in either sociology or environmental science and public policy. And I'm involved in a number of extracurricular activities that I'd be happy to talk about more later. One in particular that I am really enjoying is the Harvard Undergraduate Clean Energy Group, which is focused on the clean energy transition.
Very cool. Well, thank you all so much. Now that we've heard a little bit about the panelists, we're going to have each of us ask some questions and ask about their experiences. If anyone in the audience has any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat and we will try and get to that by the end of the night. As always, when you are putting your questions in the chat, please be mindful, respectful, and appropriate. We're really excited for this, so I'll hand it over to Mike.
Great, thanks, Kara. I know we just heard a lot about how the year has gone, but I would like to start with some questions about COVID because I'm sure it's on a lot of people's mind and what next year is going to look like versus what you guys went through at the beginning of the year. So just kind of go a little bit more into that. So let's start with this question will be for Stephanie and Josh together because I know you both go to Pitt. You guys talked about how first semester you were kind of like locked in and then they opened it up. Can you explain to us what it was like when they opened it up and what you mean by opening up more things?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I mean, we didn't actually know if we were going to campus or not until like a very short amount of time, like maybe a couple of weeks beforehand. And when we got there, there was a lot of strict quarantining, a lot of 2 weeks with nobody else in contact, a lot of you can only go to the dining hall. And so all of my classes were on Zoom, probably like most high schoolers did at the beginning of the year, I think. And so I had maybe 5 classes a week. Every day I'd just get up, sit at my desk, go back to bed. That was basically my whole day. And then this semester when vaccines came out, Pitt was actually heading vaccines for Pittsburgh in general. So they had a lot of vaccines. They were trying to get vaccines out to everyone. And they made sure that with a little bit of control and still social distancing, they would allow people to go to in-person classes, allow buildings like the library or Posvar Hall, it's a studying hall basically at this point. Any place that had an empty classroom was now available for students to swipe in and just go and sit with their friends and study, or go and sit with their friends and hang out and so on. So that's what we mean by opening up.
Just like adding on to that a little, another aspect that was affected by like the college's rules on like opening up, and most colleges to my understanding did like levels of like risk. So they're like, oh, like we have this many cases, so we're in this level of risk, so we're gonna have like these things open and these things not open, and if we lower the cases we'll have more things up. One thing that was affected a lot by this was extracurricular or like clubs activities that were university sponsored. So there were rules that were like, oh, if it's a university sponsored activity, like you can't meet in person if we're in this level of risk. And that was a little frustrating sometimes because like we'd plan an event for some activity and then like they'd be like, oh, well, now we're in this level of risk, so like you can't do that anymore, it has to be on Zoom. And we're like, oh man, that sucks. Or like it could be outside but not inside. So yeah, I mean, like I was lucky to do a few things in person, but hopefully COVID will be over in the future, but in the near future, but like it just expect like some sort of like you maybe like have short notice, something has to move to Zoom.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds a lot similar to Newton North in terms of everything. One thing that I did want to ask before we get more into COVID is So you all are attending your first year of college. How did that go? Was it your first choice that you picked when you made your decision? How did you figure out that you wanted to go to this college? And let's start with, how about Mackenzie? Sadie, you're next.
Yeah, so I attend the University of Maine, and that was not my first choice. I actually wanted to be an athletic training major, and that I was going to actually attend Quinnipiac, so which is still nonetheless out of state. It was way more expensive than the University of Maine. So mine came down to the fact that I changed my major last minute to be a business major. I did go in undecided, but I came out with 2 majors and 2 minors by the end of it, end of the semester at least. And it's also way cheaper. UMaine did a tuition match. So I went to the school for the same price as you would go for any in-state school. So it was a way cheaper decision for us. So COVID, and I knew COVID up there might open up more, since Orno's, if you look it up, it is in the middle of nowhere. Some people wonder why I went. I love the cold. That's my short answer. But yeah, the cost definitely impacted my choices and my last minute major for sure.
Oh, you're on mute, Mike, but I think Sadie can go.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I originally was planning on going to Northeastern University here in Boston. And I was part of the Bouvet School of Health Sciences, which is an incredible school. And I was actually part of the NUIN program. So Northeastern sends a third of their freshman class abroad. So I was actually planning on going to Australia. However, I fell in love with Hobart originally when I first toured it. And I was also interested in playing field hockey in college as well. And so I had an offer from the school to play there, but ended up turning it down because I wanted to go to Northeastern. However, once COVID started unraveling, I sort of got switched from going to Australia, then going to Ireland, and then going to England in the span of about 72 hours. And then the entire program got canceled, and Northeastern really had no plan at all. And while all this was going on, in the back of my head, I was still thinking about Hobart. And I think something that a lot of students struggle with is getting caught up in the name. Most people know of Northeastern, not a lot of people know of Hobart. That's just how life works. And I realized that I don't really care about that. I thought I did and it was important to me, but I realized that I would be much happier at a smaller school, liberal arts, and where I would be able to study like healthcare still, but also dabble in tons of other interests that I have. So that really helped guide me to make my decision in the end. And even though I actually am not playing field hockey there anymore, I didn't, because I turned in my offer and COVID happened, very complicated with walking on, but I'm actually so happy even without it. And that's something I think that a lot of students here can vouch for, that like when you go to college, there are so many things you thought you were gonna like, and then you end up totally like staying away from and like falling in love with different things. So that's the benefit of it though, really.
Great, thank you. Henry, how about you? Since you're on the West Coast at Berkeley over there, how was
Yeah.
it your first choice? Give us your little story.
Yeah, so I'll say Berkeley was not my first choice actually. I actually was not originally planning on applying to any of the UC schools, but I particularly too because they have a completely different application and the deadline is different. But I decided I might as well, and the way they have their application to you, one application, and it's for all of the schools in the system. So I was going through checking the schools I wanted to apply to, and I kind of came across Berkeley, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to apply there. It's a huge school. I from the East Coast, sometimes it's not as easy to get in, and I was like, well, why not? I will. But no, I wanted to stay on the East Coast because my sisters both go to school on the East Coast, and that it seemed like the right fit for me. But I ended up getting into Berkeley, and particularly too for me wanting to study economics. Berkeley has a really excellent econ department with a ton of really incredible econ professors, and I have family on the West Coast too, which is nice. And I'd been to Berkeley a couple of times, and the city is really lovely. The school has so many things going on. It's a lot like Newton North in the sense that it's a lot bigger than other schools. But it has so many opportunities. It has so many different things. If there's something you want to do at Cal, you can absolutely do it. And so I decided to pick Berkeley, and I kind of like Sadie was saying, like I came out here and I just like knew I'm so happy I made this decision. It's absolutely the right fit for me. And in retrospect, I think it's crazy that I didn't see this as more of like a top choice for me, but I'm really glad that I'm out here now.
Awesome, thank you. And Sophia, what about you in terms of first choice, how you made your decision?
Yeah, so my decision process was actually kind of the opposite of Henry's. Harvard was not my first choice as well, but I ended up getting rejected from my top choice, and I had originally wanted to get as far away from home as possible. I've ended up 20 minutes away from home, and that, especially during COVID, has ended up being a much greater perk than I imagined, like being able to have my parents come drop off some food for me, not always having to eat cafeteria food, or if I forgot to pack something, being able to have them drop it off has been an undeniable perk of living so close. And for me, part of it also came down to a financial consideration. I was really fortunate that Harvard actually ended up financially being the best choice for me, even compared to like in-state schools. And so there was, and given the amount of resources and just the amount of opportunities that it provides, it was just all around an awesome choice for me. And to echo what Henry and Sadie have said, like there were so many things that I had not even begun to consider that when I arrived at college, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much I had never even thought about that's available to me and that I can explore. And I think regardless of small school or big school, you'll find that it's just so different from high school in the best way possible.
Great, thank you. Emmy, how about you? Was UMass your first choice?
Yeah, UMass definitely was not my first choice. The thing is, I have been like observing ever since my sister went to college. I've been looking at who's going where, and it became a pretty clear pattern to me that UMass Amherst and generally UMass, financially speaking, is where a lot of people end up for financial reasons. So I kind of knew for a while that obviously I was looking around and trying to find other colleges too, but it wasn't like really much of a surprise to me when I ended up choosing it. As I alluded to just now, it was like very mostly for financial reasons. And even still, it felt kind of financially irresponsible for me to go onto campus this year, even though they did allow freshmen to come in during spring. Yeah, honestly, even though the decision was for financial reasons, I do find that there was, like, as previously has been said, a lot about UMass Amherst that I didn't know before I started, like, actually studying in it. And even though it was online, I got to know about a lot of opportunities that I certainly had no idea about. I'm studying linguistics, and UMass Amherst actually turns out has a really robust linguistics department and a lot of language interconnect stuff. So yeah, and also just like some really nice study abroad programs that I'm certainly like looking into right now, trying to plan some stuff out, and also once again the financial opportunities for that. So yeah, I think um in a way I kind of knew that I would end up here, though it wasn't my first choice, and I'm glad. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and ask about the social aspect of school with COVID, without COVID, how you think it will change next year. So I guess the first question I'll ask is, how was it making friends during COVID at your school? Obviously, if you're on campus, stuck in your dorm, you're gonna become friends with your roommates and things like that, but were you able to venture out and meet any new people? And if not, do you think it would be a challenge next year to make new friends going in as a sophomore as opposed to a junior when, or as opposed to a freshman when all freshmen are trying to socialize and get out there and meet new people? Let's start with, how about Sophia this time?
Okay, so I think, so for me, I started off fall semester on campus and then spring semester spent at home. I think being on campus definitely helped, but Harvard was pretty cautious in our guidelines, so we all had to undergo strict 2-week quarantine. We had an allotted like 20-minute walk outside, and that was pretty much it. And then after the quarantine, we were limited to only going out in groups of 4 at a time. So that ended up being usually your suite mates or people who like lived across the hall from you. But then slowly as the semester progressed, they opened it up to like 10 people. And so you could theoretically meet more people. I think it ended up this semester, I met most of my friends virtually first, and then we would arrange to meet up in person. It was a lot harder to attend any large gathering where I would meet people that way, but I'm hopeful with vaccines and everything that next semester will be a little bit better. Even Harvard, which has been fairly cautious, has stated that they're planning on doing in person and having in person activities. So I can imagine other schools, especially smaller schools that are not in cities, would have a higher likelihood of that as well.
Great, thank you. And if any of the other panelists have anything to say about the topic we are talking about, raise your hand. Let's go with Josh. Do you have anything? Oh, never mind. Let's switch it up. Stephanie has something to say. Josh, you can be next.
Okay, so funny story about my experience. I actually lived in a hotel that was like near Pitt because they like, for COVID reasons, the dorms are so small that they like took half the people out of the dorms. They made the doubles into singles, and then they put the extra people in hotels. It had its ups and downs. I'd say it was like not ideal comparative to the dorms because it was so far away from campus. It was about a 20-minute walk. And a lot of people made friends with people in their dorm, in the hotel. I did too, but you know, when you have like such a limited amount of people and there's no like common spaces because they closed them because of COVID, which was really annoying. So it was kind of like very hard to meet people. It wasn't like the dorm setting where you kind of see everybody. It was like very weird, but it was fun at times and the rooms were really nice. But they like sorry, I found it to be quite difficult. Like after you kind of meet like the initial people that you see on like the first day, you kind of like everyone kind of makes a small group and you kind of just like go with that. Instead of like what it would be normally like where you see so many people in your classes and you kind of like have a huge array of people that you could meet and possibly be friends with. And Pitt wasn't really allowing many like clubs to meet or anything where you can meet people that have like similar interests as you. But I really don't think that it will be hard next year once classes start in person. I feel like everyone is kind of in the same boat and had that same experience of like they had a very small group of people that they were talking to on a regular basis and it was hard to like branch out. And I feel like once the situation arises where it will be possible to have like large groups of just like a class where you can just talk to anyone, like I feel like people kind of like click back and it'll make sense. But one thing I would recommend to like any incoming freshman would be to like join an activity. So second semester I joined a sorority and I really liked that because like all our events were online. Like they did not allow any in-person events. So I did get to meet people that way. So we had like online, like they had like online like friend groups. They like put us in the groups and they're like everyone has to get to know each other. And it was like kind of forced, but like in a good way. So like when I go onto campus next year and like I'll get to see those people like in person, they'll probably be a little weird, but I feel like everyone's like ready and we're just like waiting for like COVID to end. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like building off of that, I wasn't in a hotel. I knew a couple of people who were. They didn't exactly like it. I mean, Pitt did everything from taking out all of the hotel's furniture and putting in standard college dorm furniture. Like it was essentially a bigger college dorm. So I've heard a lot of people who weren't happy with that. I personally was, because I'm in the honors college, I was part of the honors LLC. It's a living learning community. It just means all the honors kids are together in living spaces. So when I signed up for housing, I signed up in the honors dorm or wherever the heck that was going to be. I didn't even know where it was. And it ends up on the top of the hill at the top of campus. And I signed up randomly. So I didn't know who I was going to go with or where I was going to be. I could have been anywhere from a double to an 8-person suite to a quad with a shared bathroom. It was so weird. I didn't know what was happening. But I ended up in a suite of 6. And because we were up on the hill, we were away from most of the COVID outbreaks, if there were any on campus. We're on like literally the upper edge of campus. So only people who were up there were honors kids. And the 6 guys or 5 other guys and myself as well, got to know each other really well because we were up on this hill. So we would have to have actually put in effort to go down the hill and like go somewhere. And when everything's closed, you're not going to do that. So we got to know each other really well. We bonded over like board games, which I hadn't done in a while, but we brought a bunch of them. We made a group chat before that day and we were like, all right, guys, someone bring Monopoly, someone bring chess, someone bring this, because we're going to be spending a lot of time together. And then eventually we got to know the group across the hall. It's a suite of girls, suite of 8 girls. We only really know 4 of them because half of them didn't show up, but that's COVID for you. And so we basically grew and eventually we knew our whole floor. It was really weird when common spaces were closed, but once they were open, you could always find someone studying for a calc exam the next day in a common space and always be like, ha, you're suffering. I took that class last semester. And like little things like that, where you could get to know the people around you. On a little bit of a different note, when I got to go to in-person classes, the one class that I spent the most amount of time for was a engineering art of design class that I took. It's an honors class that basically puts first-year engineers in graduate level engineering design processes. They had speakers come in who were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't do this until grad school. And I was like, great, how do you think I feel about this? So I would find myself spending like 12 hours at a time in this engineering room. It's a makerspace, kind of like the engineering room that we have. I spent the night over there finishing my capstone project. And the bond that you make with those 10 kids who are allowed in that room, normally there's like 30 in the room, but there's only 10 because of COVID. The bond that you make with those 10 kids, because you're all staying up till 3 a.m. because you have a capstone due tomorrow morning, will never be broken. I have 20 new best friends. And that's because I got to go to in-person classes and because I decided to stress myself out by taking this class, but I would not change it for anything. So that was my situation in COVID.
Really interesting. Thanks for sharing. Emmy.
Yeah, mine's a little quick. I didn't really get to go onto campus this year, and for the first while, it was really tough because I was kind of like, oh, I'm not like really making any friends. It's hard to really feel like you're part of the community. But later I was in a bit of a higher class linguistics course, and we had this Discord made, and it was very fun. All of a sudden, like I got to know every kid in that class. And I just got to know so much about the department, so much about the courses, so many people who were like-minded to me, because linguistics is such a field that is really usually goes completely unexplored until college, until you start college. And yeah, so I would say for me being off campus the whole year, it was definitely a bit tough, but there were definitely a lot of highlights. And yeah, I'm excited to go on campus next year, because yeah, they're going to resume as close as they can to normal operations next fall.
Great. Thank you very much. Sadie, did you have something to say or are we moving on? Okay. I want to ask Mackenzie a question. Mackenzie, what is it like having a roommate for the first time? What do you do if you don't get along with your roommate? How do you share space peacefully? Things like that. Can you give some of the people watching some information on that?
Yeah, so my roommate was actually a friend that I met at North freshman year. And we found out we were both going to the same school, and kind of having a random roommate scared us a little bit. So I said, what would you think about rooming together? And I'm also an only child, so having a roommate that I knew would be a lot of comfort for me, because I always have had my own room. And, you know, being friends kind of lessened the anxiety of making new friends, because it was definitely hard on my campus too, even being as open as it was. A certain situation happened. We ended up in an argument. I ended up getting a phone to the head and getting a concussion my first semester, and she broke my nose as well. That was a safety thing for the school to move me out. That's not all situations, but even if it's a safety thing, if it's your roommate and you aren't getting along, if you meet someone else, you definitely can speak up to the school about it, whether it's as serious as mine was, but I hope that doesn't happen to anyone, or if it was just as simple as, you just weren't getting along and you felt unsafe about it. If you find someone else, join with them. And there's some people that go and they expect to have a certain roommate, and that roommate actually ends up saying, I actually don't want to be on campus. So they're left in a single. If you end up meeting someone like that, you can be like, do you want a roommate? Because I'm not working well with mine, and you can request a room with them. So I think, at least from my school, we are very flexible with it. Like I said, mine was a safety reason, and I ended up moving into a single. But if we ran into any other issues and mine wasn't a safety reason, I could still speak up about it. And they had the options for a single. A single is normally also the half room. If you want to pay for the full room, it's going to be extra. So that's another heads up, depending on which school you go to. That was mine. But yeah, the roommate was a whole new experience for me. And I am actually next year going to be moving into an apartment with two of my friends that I met. So I'm going to restart the process and hope for the best and that it turns out different.
Great. Thank you for sharing. Sadie?
So I had quite of a different experience, actually. But that being said, I mean, things happen. That's just life. You are living with someone new. I decided to go random. I think at a small school, it's a pretty common thing to do. I also suggest that, honestly. My school, how they do it is the deans actually like pick you, you're handpicked. So I mean, yes, you fill out all of like your information, but they actually go through your applications as well to see what you were involved with at high school, what you write your essay about. And I could not be more happy with how my situation ended up. I was planning on just living with my roommate Emma, just getting along, having civil conversations. You don't need to be best friends, just living well together. And she actually is one of my best friends now. Whether that being from COVID and us just having to spend a lot of time together on our floor, I don't know. However, I think going random is awesome. I was really worried about it. I had an older sister. She did not go random. She chose her roommate. They ended up not loving each other, and my sister moved out. So I sort of was like, I'm just going to go for it. And also something about doing that is when you go random and the school picks your roommate, if you have any issues, the school is super quick to like move you out or anything, because it's like they're doing, not you. You didn't pick that person. So like the school can't come back and be like, oh, well, sorry, like, you really wanted to be with them, so you made it happen. They're like, oh, like, no worries at all. Like, we will fix this, get you a new room. So if you have the option of going random, I say go for it. Why not? Honestly, I mean, everything's going to be new, and it's fun. It's really fun.
Thanks for that information. That's a good point. Josh?
Yeah, I have to echo that. Go random. I mean, Pitt was it's like 20,000 undergrad, so it's big. But like I said before, LLCs are a thing at Pitt, learning living communities. And because I was in the honors LLC, I knew that if I picked random, it's not everyone in the school. It's everyone who's in the honors college. Or like for the people who joined like the engineering LLC, it's not everyone in the school. It's everyone who's in engineering. So you get these little communities where it's like, you know what, might as well be with a random person, right? I will say that the living style of myself and my roommate are completely opposite. If I pointed my camera at the floor right now, I'd be ashamed of myself because it's a mess, right? But my roommate is very clean, and you could see a line every single day. We divided the room. I wouldn't mess up his side, and he wouldn't clean up my side. And it worked. Did I eventually have a swamp that I needed to clean up? Yes, and he would laugh at me for it, but I never touched the side of the room. And that little like bit of respect made the year so much more bearable, especially when you're spending the whole year in your room. I mean, normal year I wouldn't be in there as much. I probably wouldn't trash it up as much. But just that like little division in our tiny room, which was actually smaller than the average room, it's a whole different story. Basically allowed me to like have a little bit of sanity throughout the whole year, even though it was a random person that I'd never met before.
Great, thank you. Henry, this next question is going to be for you. You were talking about how you are doing a job on campus. So the question that we have is, how did you get involved in that? And then also, how do you manage your time between getting your work done and also going through and doing your job duties?
Yeah, definitely. My job on campus is I'm an assistant in the statistics department, particularly for a specific stats course, and my job is basically it's kind of some administrative work for the professor and the teaching staff. I'm inputting grades. A lot of the homeworks are graded based on completion, so going through and kind of ticking all of those off and uploading them into Canvas. And then doing some other kind of administrative work, answering emails, kind of working on extensions with students and those in DSP and whatnot. And so for the job, on how I found the job, Berkeley for students, they have a centralized kind of campus job site. You can go and you can kind of find jobs on campus that work for you. They have both work study jobs and non-work study jobs. And so work study jobs are jobs that are kind of remission. They go towards your tuition, and they have non-work study jobs, which is for me, based on being an out-of-state student, the way that it works is a bit different. So but the way I manage my time with that is kind of, the nice thing is that it's not always like discrete, like it has to be done at this time or this time. It's somewhat continuous. And so it's basically trying to kind of budget like maybe a 30-minute chunk of time or an hour chunk of time kind of at the end of my day, trying to get it done. That's one of the perks of it being remote too. I'm sure next semester, if I keep up with this job or take another one, it's probably going to be different. But with this remote semester, kind of just blocking out some chunks of time in my day to kind of tackle that, and kind of setting firm deadlines for myself. I know I need to have this done by this time, and so I'll make sure I get it done by then. And I think generally too, when just with doing work and kind of particularly with college work that isn't necessarily like high school homework where you have a due date and it's kind of, this has to be done by then, where it's more long-term stuff, like trying to set little deadlines for myself. And then if I'm not meeting those, kind of pushing off other work and making sure I get this particular thing finished before I move on to the next thing.
Great, thanks. It sounds like just need to be organized, and it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. Emmy, I know you have a job. It's not work study job, but do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so this year I have a translation internship, and I also have like my day job, so as to say, at Starbucks. And it was an interesting experience because since I didn't get to go to school, or like, I didn't really have that social interaction with fellow students. It was almost like I was getting my social interaction from my job, making drinks and like talking to customers, mostly to my coworkers because I don't like my customers. And sometimes I feel like it got to be a little messy, and by little I mean a lot, because like having a internship that was like, I was doing a lot of LinkedIn outreach sort of stuff like that. So I kind of had a quota of what I had to do by the end of the week, every week. And then this job that I had like set times that I had to be there, had to do this stuff. And in addition to that, like all these classes and just everything I was trying to do in school. And I wouldn't even particularly say that I'm one of the people who works better under pressure, but I do feel that if I didn't have those jobs, I would have been more lax about my schoolwork and just been, a little less organized, a little less in kind of like hustling mode, because I did have these other responsibilities on me that I needed to do. And they were also like, I need the money, so I kind of have to do it. And I think personally that combining school and work is very doable, and it can definitely get messy. I won't lie about that, but I think it's a great experience, and it puts a lot of things into perspective. Sometimes school is a bit too stressful. You feel a bit too much like, oh, if I don't do this well on this exam, it's the end of the world, whatever. And then you go to your job. I work at Starbucks, by the way, and like, just make some drinks, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's fine. I don't care. It'll be fine. So,
You probably get free coffee whenever you want, so that's pretty good.
oh yeah, if I had to stay up all night, or just like if I had to stay up a little later than usual, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting this caffeinated drink for free. And the croissant.
Great, thank you. And this is just a reminder to people watching, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get to them. Next, Stephanie, you're up. So I know you are in the nursing program. Have you declared that as your major? And if so, how did you go about doing that? Was that a hard process?
So for most nursing schools on the East Coast, generally, I don't know why it's like that, but for mostly on the East Coast, you apply directly as a high school senior. So when you apply as a nursing major to the School of Nursing, and they either accept you, and then you're assuming you keep your GPA and like grades above like a certain level, which is like different at every school, you're like on track to be a nursing, like you will graduate as a nursing major. You have a degree in nursing. The only thing, and then, so sorry, the one thing about that, which is really great, is that you're guaranteed a spot in all the classes required for your major. So for anyone in college, like probably knows the stress of registering for courses where you're not sure if you will get a spot in the classes that are required for your major. For nursing, it's not like that. You're guaranteed a spot. So if you have to apply as a senior, which is a little frustrating for some people because they might not know they're ready to commit to being a nursing major. And then that becomes frustrating because you can apply to something else and then you can like get on a wait list once you're in, but you're not guaranteed anything. So, but I do know some people who didn't apply as nursing majors and they're on a wait list and they do get spots in some of the classes. They're just not prioritized. So yeah, I'm sorry I answered that kind of badly, but it is a little frustrating that you do have to apply as a senior in high school, but once you're in, and I find that to be really great because all I have to do is keep my grades above a certain GPA, and then I'll know I'll graduate as an RN, and that's really nice to know. So yeah.
No, you did a great job answering that question. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sophia, I have a question for you. What are your relationships like with your professors? How do they kind of compare to the teachers you had at Newton North? And is there any similarities there or differences?
Yeah. So classes in college, at least for me, have been very different. So whereas in high school, like your teachers, you see them 4 times a week, they teach your courses and they grade your work. So by the end of the year, you get to know them pretty well. Depending on the class size in college, you're either in like really small seminars with 12 people, or you're in these giant lectures with hundreds of people. And so there's definitely a range of how well you can get to know your professors. But even oftentimes for smaller seminars, I found that TFs tend to do the grading. So all the ways that your professor.
Hold on one second, just to interrupt. Can you explain that? TF or TA?
Oh,
For some
yes,
people who might not
sorry.
know that.
TF
No
is just
problem.
teaching fellow, which is just a teaching assistant, usually a graduate student. I imagine different schools have different languages at Harvard that are called TFs. And basically, so you have a professor who lectures or teaches the course, and then you'll have TFs, teaching assistants, who assist and do most of the grading. And so most of your interaction with the professor will be during class. And it can be hard to find time to really establish a relationship in the hour and 15 minutes that you have where you're learning class material. So I found that attending office hours is really, really, really helpful. And I think that's one of the few pluses to Zoom learning, because instead of having to walk to someone's office, you are just seated at your desk, you find their Zoom link and you pop in and you talk to them for a little bit. And so that I think has been really helpful, especially I'm in one of my courses it wasn't even that big. It was 30 people, but it's enough where you can't even see everyone's faces on the Zoom page. And so being able to go to office hours and talk to this professor really helped me better understand the material and also get to know her on a more personal level. And I know for me as well, I purposely chose a freshman seminar course, which is limited to freshmen. And usually the way that works at Harvard is like it's only 12 people. The professor teaches the course and grades your work. And the whole point is to help you get acclimated to like college level courses. And so my professor was really interested in actually getting to know us. And so she set up meetings, one-on-one meetings all throughout the semester with the express purpose of just talking to us, finding out our interests, and just getting to know us as a person. And I found that really helpful. And I know other colleges also offer similar courses. And I think that's a really great way to meet these like really amazing professors on a more personal level.
That's really great. I think hopefully that's something that we can continue on with is virtual office hours, because that's a really good point. Thank you. Sadie?
So like Sophia said, office hours. I was really nervous about going to office hours. Kind of intimidating, like as a first year, like going to approach a professor, but they literally like want you to come. They're so excited when students come. So even if you like don't necessarily like need help with anything, like I really would say just go and introduce yourself. I, like I said, go to a small school. So we actually don't have any teaching assistants at all, which I love personally. That means your professor knows who you are. They know if you're doing your work, if you're not doing your work. Like you get like really close to them, which is pretty like it's honestly amazing. So just like take that extra step to introduce yourself, even if it's sending an email or just going up to them after class, just saying, hi, I just want to introduce myself, like my name is blah, blah, blah. It'll be so worth it in the end.
It sounds a lot like Flex Block at Newton North. Yeah. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think also office hours, obviously, they've already said why. But one of the things that I felt really helpful for me personally in introducing myself is I have been diagnosed with ADHD for like years now. So I get accommodations and I'm also in engineering. So for a little bit of context, most schools for engineering, it depends on exactly where you go, but most of the big schools don't actually make you declare your major of engineering until the end of your freshman year. And even then they let you change until sophomore year. So what that means is every single person who goes into engineering goes in undeclared. And every single person takes the same like 5 core STEM classes, right? We all go through the same pain is what most of them say. So what that means is I'm in 200-person lectures. On Zoom, that's even worse. I mean, it's like 25 per screen and that's it, right? So if you don't establish yourself as, hey, I'm the person who has ADHD who needs to get time and a half on tests, right? You become like a person they email. You become an email to them. That's it. In online learning, the most that I have in contact with these professors is they're lecturing to everyone. It's a 200-person lecture. Not everyone's going to turn on their camera. They don't have time to scroll through every single page. I'm just an email to them. Hey, Josh Pinto, do you want time and a half on this test? And if you don't make that step, that's all they'll ever be to you. But when I reached out to like my chemistry professor, for example, I mean, I'm a chemical engineer. I love chemistry. When I reached out to her and I started just going to her office hours, we just end up having conversations for like 20 minutes about random chemistry things after I got my question answered. And it was great because it's clear that she actually wants to like talk to people. I mean, they obviously miss talking to actual people as well. There's a reason they picked the engineering chemistry class versus the normal one. So like once you get to that step and you establish and you present for yourself, there's tons of help, tons of everything at the university. You just got to take that first step.
Great, thank you. That's a really good point. Put a face with that email address. Thanks, Josh. How about, let's ask Sadie a specific question. Sadie, what is one thing you wish you knew about your college before you started? Put you on the spot.
Ooh, that's a tough one. One thing I wish I knew about my college beforehand. Oh, that's like really hard. I'm trying to think. So I did a lot of research, I'll say that firsthand, about the different schools that I was interested in. And like once I was going to a school, like I talked to a lot of people too. So I feel like when I went in, I knew a lot about my school. The one thing I wish I knew though is I'd say class registration. I think that goes for like a lot of schools, is how it's going to work out. I sort of went in with the idea that'd be similar to high school almost, that like, oh, I'm interested in these classes, my advisor will sign me off for these classes and I'll get into them. That's not the case at all. Even at a small school, it's not the case. Big school, probably not the case either. And that's okay though. Like, I think it goes for most schools, is like being able to adapt. That's like a huge thing, especially with COVID. I think a lot of people have like gained that skill. But even without it, adapting. And I'd say that's like not necessarily specific about my school, but as a general thing, definitely that. And then class registration, like don't sweat the little things. There's a lot of things that are gonna be ups and downs throughout your life, especially in college, and stressing about the little ones you're gonna go downhill really fast. I think a lot of people can learn that and have been through that. I mean, for me, after class registration, was on the phone with my advisor, freaking out about like, oh my God, I didn't get into like this bio class. Like, what am I going to do? Like, but like stressing myself out like that isn't going to help. And like, people want you to succeed where you are. They're going to help you get into your classes. So I think trusting the process of wherever you are is a big thing.
Great, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot. That question can go for anyone if you have anything specific in mind, like, I wish I knew this about my school before I went there. So if anything pops up, Emmy, go for it.
I kind of wish I was told, or like, I wish I knew more about UMass Amherst, just like how many opportunities there are, because there's just so many. And especially with like study abroad, there's so many interesting things to do. I feel like UMass Amherst definitely gets the rep of being like, the safety school, which it is for a lot of people. It's not like that's not true, but it's a really good school still, and the opportunities there are really big. Even like I was talking with my advisor about like trying to pair linguistics with something else, because I felt like I didn't want to do just pure linguistics. And she was telling me, she was like, oh, we don't have like the best like neurolinguistics program, so you're probably going to have to combine biology maybe, or some stuff with like brain science, cognitive science. And I looked into it. I feel like she really made an understatement, because there's just like a lot to do. And as a person who really likes learning, I don't mind learning pure cognitive science in addition to linguistics, and then just combining those together with like on my own time or whatever. There's just, I feel like that's the perk of going to a big school. Even if you don't find that a specific field or a specific combination of things that you want to do is there, you're still able to pair like really close things and get to a really good result still. I got to know that there's like crazy linguistics and anthropology, linguistics and psychology, crossovers at UMass Amherst, and especially just the language program's also really good. So for me, yeah, I really wish I knew more about those before I joined.
Great, thank you. Josh?
When I think of this, I think of like, what would you tell yourself? Um, and my first thought is always like, if I could look at myself, grab my shoulders and shake myself and be like, dude, you've been prepared for this. You've been prepared for this. Like, I didn't realize when I went to college, I will totally brag about this, right? North is a good high school, great high school. You guys, like, sophomores and juniors and seniors are all stressed out about all this stuff. Freshmen don't know what's going on, but whatever. Like, all these people are stressed out about everything. And North is a good school to take you and say, this is what you have to do. This is how you have to do it. This is how you got to work. I never got over, I think like a B plus for most of my essays in high school. And I was like, oh, I suck at writing, man. I'm an engineer. I can't write. I got 100 on 3 out of 5 of my essays for college. And that's not like, oh, like he's so smart, he gets 100 on everything. It's, I knew what to do. I knew how to do things. And when they're asking you and they're giving you all these specifications and you know, okay, I got to read the assignment doc and get every single one of these points, you don't lose points. Because Miss Carrillo, sophomore year, was like, hey, you didn't pay attention to grammar here or here or here. You're like, all right, it's in the back of my head. And I think that when I went into all these tests and I'm taking like Calc 3 and I'm sitting here looking at this integral that's like double integral of whatever, and Miss D's in the back of my head going, hey, don't forget the product rule. I didn't lose that 5 points on that question, right? I think a lot of people stress out about the process and they stress out about all this stuff. They don't remember that, like, I can tell you, I bet every single one of these panelists will say, like, you're smart. Believe in yourself, right? You can do it. You've been prepared for it.
Josh, thanks. That's really, really awesome. It just goes to show you're right. Newton North is a great school and everyone here is setting you up for success. So kudos to everyone and you can do this. Stephanie?
So I would just like to add on to what Josh was saying. I absolutely felt very prepared in many different ways from going from North to college. Definitely, like, it was a little bit of a shock to me that how much, like, I feel like when you're in North, you're like, oh, I'm so bad at this, I'm so bad at that, because there's so many people who are so good at everything. But then you go to college and not like people are worse, but like people, not everyone had the same experience of, like, we were all forced to write a junior thesis junior year, and at the time I was like, well, it's an assignment, I'll do it, whatever. But like, and it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but it wasn't like my favorite thing to do. And then I had to write a research paper freshman year, obviously freshman year, fall semester. And I just remember like getting the assignment, looking at the assignment sheet and being like, easy peasy, like I can absolutely do this. North taught me how to do all of these things. And I remember people in like the class group chat were like, oh, does anyone know how to do this? Like, how do I make a bibliography? How do I like do this? Or like, I think I did this in high school, but not really. Like, no, like North grilled us to do it. And we absolutely did it very well. And I just remember I went to the library. I spent like 2 days in the library writing it. And I was like, okay, great. And like, that was that. And it was very easy for me. And it was like, I'm just like very thankful for like my experiences at North. And I ended up like helping a lot of people who like didn't know not what they were doing, but like they had just never done something to the caliber of a junior thesis or a freshman year research paper for like my intro to nursing class. So yeah, shout out to North.
Thank you. Sophia?
Yeah, I definitely second everything that Josh and Stephanie have said. North academically prepares you very, very well for college, I think. And I also want to add that, like, I know I entering college felt sort of an imposter syndrome where, like, oh, everyone's going to be so smart, so much better than me. Like, I feel like an imposter in this environment. And that's so not true. Like, everyone comes with very different experiences. And what you'll find is that, like, most people are not geniuses at everything. They have something they're good at. And then they're okay, or maybe even not that okay at other things. And so everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. And so if you're ever feeling down, like, think about, like, what are your own strengths, what are your own weaknesses. You don't have to be perfect in everything, and you as you are right now is totally capable and ready to be the college student that you are.
Thank you, Sophia. Mackenzie, here's a question for you. What is there to do on weekends? I know you are up at U Maine. Are you busy with? I am muted. Sorry, I apologize. Mackenzie, this one's coming for you. Sorry. So what was your biggest things that you did on weekends? Were you too busy with work? Do you have time to socialize? How did your weekends look?
So every occasional weekend, you might have fallen behind in a certain class or two, because maybe just during the week you thought you had more time than you did. So there might be a Saturday or Sunday that you're kind of focused on schoolwork. But I think there's still definitely a lot of like time and chances to spend time with friends. Uh, Bangor is the next city to Orno that had like food and a ridiculous mall with probably about 3 stores in it. It's probably going to be torn down by the time I get back in the fall. It's not much of anything, but um, I guess this is part of college, so I'm gonna share it. Maine's a big party school. With COVID, you're not supposed to. People still did it anyways. But with that being said, that wasn't really my cup of tea, and you'll be pretty convinced to go with the crowd because you're kind of stuck with, you're in a new situation, you're not sure what to do, you're with a bunch of new people, but the more you let someone control your life, it's their life and not yours anymore. So if you don't like doing that, don't do it. Like, it's not something that you have to do. I like small gatherings, and I like doing things like that, but I like knowing everyone's face. I don't like being in a room of people where I'm just like, I am never going to see that person again. And it's just not my type of thing. It may be Maine's, but it's definitely not mine. But it didn't stop me from going to the school because I knew as long as I kept to who I was and made my own decisions that I would succeed. There is definitely a place for everyone, even if it might not seem like it at first. So
Great. Thank you very much. Be true to yourself. Sadie, you had something to say about that?
Yeah, I think the benefit of college is that there is so much to do. And whether that be during the weekdays, but also on the weekends. I mean, even going to a small school, there's so much to do. So I can only imagine at a larger school. You can go to the surrounding areas, you can go to artistic events, you can just have a movie night with friends. There is your party scene in college. That's just college. That's how it's gonna be. So you can go to those kinds of things, or you can have a night to yourself, and that's totally fine. I'd say go just have fun. That's like my biggest thing. And like whatever you want to do to have fun, like do that. Like what makes you happy, what you enjoy. And there's gonna be other people that have the same thing. So if the first people you meet at college are like want to go out and you're like, yeah, I'll go with you one night, whatever, and you have an okay time, but it's not really your thing. And those same people want to do the same thing, but you want to go to an art event, go to the art event. And you're gonna meet people there that are interested in the exact same things as you. So I'd say like take the time to do that. And one thing that I learned the hard way is that on Fridays, I was done with class at 10, which I was like, oh, my weekend starts now. I can just like lounge around all day. Great. Do my work on Sunday. But my friends got out of class around 3. Do work until your friends get out of class because you're going to save yourself so much time over the weekends. Instead of having 5 assignments to do on Sunday, you'll have 3. And that saves you just so much time. And so like when you have those breaks, take the break. Of course, you deserve it. But if you have 4 hours of doing nothing, like take an hour break, do some work, take another few minutes to yourself, then come back to it until you're ready to actually like have a weekend, because you'll really thank yourself towards the end of it.
Great, thanks. Time management. Yeah, you got to figure out what works for you, but breaking it up, I think, is a great advice. Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, my camera just zoomed out. That's fine. I would say that definitely to echo what Sadie was saying, that like definitely like don't feel like there's like one specific thing you have to do, or like, oh, I'm in college, like the weekend, like, oh, I need to be doing this, this, and this. Like it's definitely like a time for you to just kind of like just kind of take a little break. I mean, definitely use the weekends to get stuff done, like Sadie was saying too. Don't put everything off until Sunday evening because you'll drive yourself crazy. But like it's definitely a time for you to, and like for example, like I think one of the great things about Berkeley is it's like right in the middle of so many places. Like you're you're 10 minutes from Oakland, you're a 40-minute subway ride or car ride away from San Francisco. You can go up to the peninsula, you can go down to the bottom of the bay. So there's so many like excursions to go on, and Berkeley is also just such an artsy kind of very like eclectic, vibrant place that on the weekends there are street fairs, there are farmers markets, there's so many things going on. And so it's just like, just get out and try new things. Go out with your friends and get brunch, go to the coffee shop. Like there's so many different things to do that aren't necessarily like partying or like doing kind of X, Y, or Z, like the very stereotypical college things. So it's definitely just like a time like, and also just to be spontaneous, like going on a midnight like trip to San Francisco and like just having a good time with your friends. And so it's definitely a time to kind of to try new things and try and kind of just like, that's when you get to, that's kind of, these are the opportunities you have to really get super close with people that you love to be with and just do things that you wouldn't normally get to do.
Josh?
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add on to that because I was in a different Oakland, Pittsburgh, but basically the university, because Pittsburgh is a very city campus, and I think it's a bit similar with Northeastern and a couple other city campuses, they have deals with public transportation. Pittsburgh is a bus city. They have deals where I can swipe my card on every single bus and go anywhere for free. We went to Pirates games. We went to the Carnegie Museum of Art because they gave us like points to do it. It's a whole different system, but like they wanted us to do these things. They're actively encouraging all these things. They're encouraging you to go to anywhere on campus and get food somewhere different because they'll give you a free swipe for a meal at some place. They want you to go out and have fun. And I think that a lot of people, like, it doesn't have to be with anyone if you just want to go downtown and go to a park, hop on a bus. But at the same time, like everyone else has said, you'll find those people.
Awesome. Thanks, Josh. Henry, I'm going to go throw it back to you real quick. So we do know you are in California. Being so far away from home, and not to put you on the spot or anything, but like, what do you do if you get sick, or what do you do if you get homesick? Have you had to deal with anything like that? Can you go into a little detail about that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll preface this by saying I have the good fortune of most of my mom's family lives in the Bay Area, right where Berkeley is, and so I'm very fortunate that I have 3 uncles within like a 40-minute drive who are nearby. I actually have a cousin who lives in Oakland, which is really cool. But it's definitely a thing, though. I think that like one of the reasons why I wanted to stay on the East Coast was so if I wanted to, like the past couple of years, my sisters go to college very close to home, and before COVID, like they would come home a lot, like have dinner at home, maybe do their laundry at home. And so I was like, oh yeah, that like if they ever need anything, if they're ever homesick, they can just buzz over. And I thought, oh, why not? Like that seems like something because growing up too, like I was never, I got homesick easily. Like I didn't like going away from home for too long, but then coming out here, I think one of the things that's really helped me, if I'm ever missing home, is like just like can FaceTime my parents. I can have them like show me my dog or the cats. I can talk to friends from back home or just friends who are off in college, just to kind of feel the connections that I normally do. Like 2 of my really closest friends from Newton North, we usually chat on FaceTime or Zoom every other week or so, and we just even if it's just we're eating dinner and we're just talking together. But then also, I mean, again, for me, and this is maybe a more unique circumstance, but I've been able to like go and get dinner on a weekend with my uncle, or they're up in Berkeley, and they just stop by and we go for a walk. So, but definitely, I think taking advantage of kind of the technology we have, everyone's kind of very online nowadays. You have the setup, so make use of it. I will say too, there is the time zone difference, which I think has been the biggest thing for me, being 3 hours behind. Like if it's like 11 p.m. and I'm kind of like, I need to talk to someone, can't really do that. Don't want to wake people up at 2 a.m. So I think then that's when it's just kind of that's just kind of when you just kind of gotta and I think everyone kind of goes through like some point in college, just kind of like, I gotta get through this, and you make it through. But in terms of like if I ever getting sick, like there's definitely UHS, like University Health Services, and most schools have something available if you have a cold, or if you need to get something checked out, like it's definitely very available, and Berkeley had that open all of this year. But I would say that I was pleasantly surprised by how well I was able to kind of manage being 2,000 miles away from home this year.
Yeah, great. I'm glad to hear that you were able to find ways to cope with that if you needed it. The next question we have is for Sophia. Sophia, you mentioned earlier about extracurriculars, and I wanted to give you some time to go into a little more detail about the extracurriculars. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so in high school, I did a lot of extracurriculars. And so entering college, I told myself I would take it slow, not do too much, and really ease up. I found old habits die hard, and it was really easy to get caught up in the moment. And everything sounded so interesting. And I put my name down for a lot of things. I think it's a familiar phenomenon for a lot of North students as well, where you go to the club fair, you sign up for everything, and then you realize you can't do it all. And so you slowly pare it down. That's a similar experience happened for me again this year. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out what you're interested in. And especially in a virtual year, I found that clubs has been the best way to meet people. And not all the clubs have to be super serious. Like I mentioned before, I'm in a clean energy group, and that is a little bit more pre-professional. We invite speakers to come give talks about different energy or climate related issues. And then we also have an educational component where we hold like lectures and other coffee breaks where we discuss more serious issues. But on the other hand, it's also a social group. And we, for example, for the people living in the area, we've had like many spike ball sessions, we've had hikes together. Like it's very much a social thing. But then I'm also part of clubs like the Chinese Student Association, which is purely social. And so for that, like everyone is there because you share the same cultural heritage, but also because you just want to make friends. And so there's a lot of social events. I know at least at Harvard, there are a lot of clubs that have like peer-to-peer mentorship programs. For us, it was called SibFam. Basically, you have like upperclassmen who are like Sib parents, and then you have freshmen who are like Sib kids, and you get paired up into families at the start of the year. And that's a great way to meet some upperclassmen and some other freshmen in a smaller group. And we last semester and even this semester will Zoom like every week or every other week. And so it's just nice to have a set group of people where you're all there with the express purpose of meeting someone, and they really do become sort of like a family. And that's just for one club. There are a lot of other clubs that have similar mentorship programs that you can like sign up for and meet other people through.
Great, thank you. Emmy?
Yeah, I was just gonna say at UMass was the first time I ever got to join an Armenian Students Association. And it was like crazy. It was the first time I saw so many like Armenian diasporans in one place. Like so many Armenian last names right in front of me. Oh my goodness, it was crazy. And I know that a lot of other people from smaller cultures, lesser numbered ethnicities experience a similar thing because at colleges there do tend to be associations or groups or clubs that kind of revolve around culture. And yeah, I just thought that that was a very nice part of like the extracurricular program.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else have anything to say about extracurriculars at their school? If not, I'm going to turn it back over to Natalia and Kara. We want to be mindful of everyone's time. It's 7:45.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for sharing all this information. It is very beautiful. I have two notes. Mackenzie, I'm sorry for what happened with your roommate. I am really sorry. I feel like having roommates, it is really hard. And Emily, I think customer service, it is something that we all have to experience. It is really difficult and very important. And I have just a couple of questions for you guys. The first one, it is, what would you do different regarding the college application? Like something that you learn and you wish like the seniors now like apply. Stephanie, thank you.
One thing is like it's okay not to have like a first choice school or like a top choice school that you're like really set on. Like I kind of like I knew I wanted to apply as a nursing major, but I didn't really like have a specific school that I was really crazy about. So I just like applied to like as many as possible. And I was like, well, I'll figure out which ones I really like once I get in. And then like a week before like the pandemic started, I toured Pitt and I was like, wow, this is really great. And then I just like went there. So like don't feel like you have to have like such a specific school that you want to go to because like
Okay,
you're all good.
Mackenzie.
I'm gonna add on to the don't go with the crowd thing. I think a lot of my schools were popular names. And I'll admit that I definitely followed the crowd back senior year at Newton North. That I mean, people have heard of UMaine, the hockey team, the everything about it. It's a big New England thing. I did apply to Northeastern myself. I applied to schools that just everyone knew of. And in the end, it's for what purpose? At the end of the day, you're going for an education. It's not, people aren't going to be looking for the name of the school. They're going to be looking for that if you got the job done or not. And definitely when you're applying, I think seniors already had to apply, but if you're a junior here, just keep that in mind that there is no reason to apply to the name, apply to what you want and what's the opportunities that the school holds for sure.
Okay, Josh.
I have to say, my experience, Pitt was the first school that I heard back from. And literally, like, if I had just said yes, like before, and not worried about all the other applications, I would have been done, right? It's the first school that I heard back from. And it's just like, in hindsight, it's like, well, if I had known that I was going to get rejected from here and accepted here, and I would have just like picked that. I think as far as my like application process goes, I just wish I had written things sooner. It sucks. Like it really does. And like the whole like getting yourself to do applications is awful, but just do it early. Pitt has rolling admissions. So that's the reason why I heard back so soon. As soon as you apply, it's like within 2 weeks, they tell you if you're in or not. And like the plan behind applying also kind of matters. Unfortunately, sometimes it becomes a numbers game and all that stuff. But like knowing where you want to apply and when you want to apply, and then being like, all right, I'm going to actually do it, would have helped me so much.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is, in case you need it.
Hold on, Sophia has something to say.
Oh, sorry, Sophia, I didn't see your hand. Sophia.
Oh, sorry, I'll make this quick. I just wanted to add that I unfortunately did have a school I had set my eyes on, and as I mentioned before, got rejected. Do not take that as any marker of your self-worth. Like it is such a game of luck. If you like, the way my mom tried to frame it to me was, if you felt like you gave your 100%, you put your best foot forward, you didn't get in, that's the best you can hope for. Like really just make sure, to what Josh said, like try to put your best foot forward, because once you do and you get rejected, at least you know you put in the effort. But even if you do get rejected, it's okay. I think we are all very adaptive human beings. And even though there are some schools that might fit us better, it's all subjective in the end, and you can find your place anywhere.
Thank you, Sophia. And well, now, in case you need it, if you have needed, do you think the school have been easy giving you like social, emotional support or academic support? What have been your experience? If someone wants to answer that.
I have to say that at the University of Pittsburgh, there is just like counselors on top of counselors on top of counselors. If you need career advice, there's a career person you can email. Like you have to go and find it. Like I said before, with like my own ADHD stuff, you have to go out and find those things. But once you do, they'll respond to you in the day. Like, you want to meet tomorrow? go over your resume? Sure. And then you'll be set.
Okay, Sadie.
Yeah, so I have a similar situation. I feel like I have a lot of support at school. Especially as a first year, you're gonna have your orientation and they're gonna be throwing so much information at you. However, my one suggestion is write down like res ed's number, put in your phone under notes, put in like career services, email the number. Just even if you think you aren't gonna need it that year, that's fine. But it just will save you so much time. So if you do come across a situation where you just need someone to talk to, you need help with something in your room, instead of having to like get flustered searching for the number, you have it, you know where to look for it. It'll just save you so much time. And if you do need help, reach out for it. You know, people, they want you to succeed. I've said that a lot and I really do believe it's true. So it's okay to need help. Like it's fine. Like you are in a brand new situation, you're in a brand new school, a lot going on. Like more often than not, everyone around you is also in the same situation.
Guys, thank you so much. I am very proud of you, everything you have done, and the level of compassion and empathy is really beautiful. And I think now, Cara, she has something to tell you guys.
I'm actually gonna sneak in. I want to just give everyone one more 15-second, 20-second commercial. Anything you want to say to everyone? I'll go around the line. I'm gonna start. This is my screen. Sadie, do you want to go first?
Totally. I'd say have fun. You know, find the time to do your work, get it done. But college is about having fun, explore new things. This is your one time to do it, and save your money. That is my biggest thing. I thought, you know, going into my first year over like break, like during the summer, I was like, oh, you know, like I'll go get ice cream with my friends. Like if you have ice cream at home, eat the ice cream at home. I'm telling you, save every penny you can. You are not going to know how much money you need until you are really in the situation. So that's my biggest piece of advice. But also, if you're interested in something, go for it. If you hate it, stop it. Like you are in charge of your own life now. Like try it out. If you don't like it, that's okay. You know, just people always say like college is the best time of your life. And I was like, oh, it's so corny, but it really is. And it's like, just like be so open. You don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to be friends with. Have an open attitude and you'll all do so fine too. Like you'll be great.
Thank you. Stephanie?
I just say like try to look for people that you see yourself being friends with for more than just the first week where everyone's like trying to make friends really fast. If you feel uncomfortable with the group of friends that or the group of people that you've decided like these are my friends now, if you feel uncomfortable, then just leave that group. I feel like everyone jokes about like the first friends you meet in college are not your real friends. That's very true, at least in my situation. You just got to look beyond whoever lives across the hall from you because there are people that you are meant to be friends with, but they might not be the very first four people that you meet. So just look past that. Also, on a non-academic note, don't bring too much stuff to college. Just bring like the necessities because your room is gonna be very small. You're not gonna have a lot of space. Don't go buy like extra stuff, like just the necessities. Like I did a good job with that. My roommate brought like so much stuff and she was like, what do I do with this? It would just make clutter. She didn't use any of like all the like accessories, like extra school supplies, like extra stuff. So just pack light.
Mackenzie?
I would say, at least for me in academics, I would say it's been equal to North and like almost a little easier, but don't fall behind. High school, you did get to know your teacher, I have to talk in college terms, your teacher well, because you always went to their class like 4 times a week, if that's what it still is. That's what it was when I went to North. But now that you don't get to meet them as much, and extensions are not granted as easy as they were in high school. They made a certain deadline for a certain reason. They made it like that's what their curriculum is, and you're only doing it in 1 semester. You don't get this class the whole year, so don't fall behind. Like for mental health reasons, for my injury, I was granted those, but those I had to go through UMaine for. So it's bigger than just a simple email that says, can I please turn this in a day late? That might not fly with some of your teachers. So I have all my finals done, but I am working on a big project right now that was due back in March. So don't be like me and do that. Yes, mine was for some reasons, but it's not as flexible as high school. So definitely keep on top of your work.
Thank you. Henry.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the biggest advice I would give is I think that like a lot of us, like you kind of get into college, you're like, okay, I think I know what I want to do. Like I'm gonna do this, this, and this. Like I'm gonna do these clubs. I'm probably gonna major in this. Like I need to take these classes now. Just your first year, like don't commit to anything. Just like that's like the beauty of college is it's like freshman year is your time to just kind of explore, get the feel for stuff, join a bunch of clubs that you maybe. Well, I think that's the biggest thing about college too, is there's so many things that you just don't have in high school. There's so many subjects that it's like, wait, this exists, what? And so instead of being like, oh, I want to make sure I knock out all my prereqs and breadth requirements for this, and this major, explore, take classes. If your friend's second semester is taking a class and it sounds interesting, take it with them. And that's just my biggest advice is don't get bogged down by thinking, oh, I need to meet these requirements or I need to do certain things, because you don't. So just explore, have fun, and you will figure out what you want to do if you do that.
Emmy.
For me, I would say it's okay to be different. I felt like I came from a very, very different background than a lot of people at Newton North. People who knew me know why. Oh my goodness, sorry, it's my cat. She's meowing a lot. But yeah, it's very easy to get caught up in what everybody else is doing, what everybody else's situation is. And it's, you are your own person. You have your own circumstances. You do what you need to do. And you should not be paying a lot of attention to what other people are doing, because all it does is distract you from your own goal. College is the pathway to your goals. It is not your end goal in life. So just, yeah, in a way, I guess what I'm saying is don't stress too hard, because life gets really different after college, and just for everyone.
Thank you. Sophia.
Yeah, for me, I think the big one is find the work-life balance that works for you. It's really easy to see people who are going out. There's going to be someone out and hanging out at any time of day. You don't see the people who are working in their rooms, studying, reviewing for that exam that they have, working on that paper. There's always going to be someone studying. There's always going to be someone hanging out. So it's up to you to figure out what work-life balance works for you and stick to it, because it'll make you so much happier.
And Josh.
I think it's a little overlooked sometimes, but call your mom, call your dad, both your moms, both your dads, whatever it is, grandparents, call them. They've seen you grow up like your whole life, and they saw you get into this school and be so excited to go there. Like, just let them into your life. COVID isn't as bad when you're stuck in your dorm, when you can talk to your mom and talk about that one time you were an idiot when you were 12 because it came up in your head or something like that. Like, call them.
That was great. Thanks, Josh. I'm going to switch it over to Kara real quick.
Thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. You guys gave such great advice tonight. You guys clearly have had such an awesome year despite the circumstances that have happened. And congratulations for finishing your first year. That's a huge accomplishment. For the audience members, I hope that this program was helpful for you, gave you all some insight, and that you can take some of this great advice that you have heard and bring it into your next year or two, whether you're a junior, whether you're a senior, and bring it with you forward. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Kennedy to give a few final remarks.
I just wanted to take a moment to thank the panelists for their words of wisdom. I'm so glad to hear that you felt prepared by Newton North academically. And I just loved hearing your perspectives, even though you've only been out of high school for 1 year. So thank you for your time and your wisdom and your words of advice. And I also wanted to thank our school counseling interns, Kara, Michael, and Natalia, for their hard work in organizing this evening. It was very helpful. We've recorded it, and it will be your legacy. So thank you. Have a good evening and take good care.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.